Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of How I Met Your Monster, the show where we discuss the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. Today, we are talking Malignant because the internet hasn't spoken up about this yet, so we felt like we should.
Yeah. The world
Just
needed
to be
our
clear,
opinion.
there is no arguing on the internet for this movie. Just so
Everyone's really happy about it.
Everyone's very peaceful.
It's totally just down the middle. Everyone's just like totally cool with it. No extreme thoughts whatsoever.
Right. I loved it. I freaking loved it because I'm not a big Conjuring universe guy. Mm-hmm. The Conjuring 1 was good. I enjoyed it. I didn't see 2.
Like I didn't see 2 or 3. Not a big fan. I only like the first one.
No. Well, okay.
No, but there's like spin-offs and like that's a whole like thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I don't care about the Annabelle movies. Sure. And I'm not saying they're bad.
It's just not your
because thing. I just haven't seen them. But I'm just not interested at all.
Totally. That's fair.
I did watch is it the third Conjuring?
The Devil Made Me Do It on HBO.
The Devil Made Me Do It. Yeah. I did watch that, and it was pretty good, but it was more like a detective story.
They changed course a little bit with like what they had set up as far as like the Conjuring style and story.
And so other than Saw, I have not been the hugest James Wan fan.
Okay.
He makes good movies, and he's talented, and he's got this whole the thing that he's created in this whole universe is awesome. But they're just not really
your cup of tea.
But Malignant,
you loved it.
We saw a trailer for this in front of Candyman.
Okay.
And wow, the trailer, they totally pulled a fast one on us.
Because they don't tell you anything.
You remember the trailer. Yeah. And you get a totally different movie when you watch this.
It's so true, though. They really do like pull the rug out because it is just like, oh no. Okay, I have thoughts, but I'll save that for a little later because I do have some questions, but we'll cover that in a little bit.
Okay. But yeah, my jaw from like I guess maybe the beginning of the third act, probably until the end. My jaw was on the floor. Great. And it turned into a kind of movie that I just love. From the 70s, 80s, it had that whole feel to it. And this was supposed to be like his, people are saying it's like his homage to Giallo movies. And I saw some elements of that. But it was also like, Giallo mixed with like Stuart Gordon 80s.
I even heard people kind of name dropping a lot of those early 2000s, late 90s horror movies like 13 Ghosts or, like when those Dark Castle movies started coming out. It is a little bit like...
Yeah. Well, you get that great opening shot.
Yes,
of that,
which just looks like House on Haunted Hill, the remake.
Right.
So there are a lot of like nods to movies that clearly James Wan was feeling. Although I shouldn't... Right. Before I go any further, we should note that the screenwriter, I apologize.
Akilah Cooper.
What is the name?
Akilah
Cooper. Akilah Cooper. I wasn't as familiar with her work, but I do want to make sure that I don't like gloss over that when we talk about this.
Right. So
since she did write it.
She's a producer on a lot of big television series.
I noticed that. And I actually never checked American if this was even her first official credit for a script.
It is not. She's written a lot of TV.
Gotcha.
This looks like to be her first feature film script that was produced.
I see.
Oh no, I'm wrong. Hellfest. Do you remember Hellfest a few years ago?
No, because now all I'm thinking of is that movie, Haunted. Is it Haunted? Yeah. Right, where they go to the big haunted house and the guys in the masks.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see that.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, but I feel like that'd be right up your alley.
Okay. But I think Hellfest is kind of that same thing. They're like at a carnival or something.
Okay.
But I haven't seen it.
I want to check it out.
she's got one coming out right now that they're filming called Megan.
Okay.
And it looks like, it says a robotics engineer at a toy company builds a lifelike doll that begins to take on a life of its own.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, that's going to be fucking sweet.
That is awesome, especially seeing what she has done in this script. Like, she's clearly willing to go all out, especially on the well, spoiler alert, especially on the gore. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
and she's working on the Nun too. Mm-hmm. So I wonder how she got connected with James Wan, because he's obviously producing those. I wonder if she produced those movies. I should look into this.
Right.
I should have come prepared. I don't see any of.
Well, this was kind of a last minute episode, mm-hmm. So I think we'll give you a pass.
Thank
you. But so I want to hear your initial thoughts on Malignant.
Okay. I feel like you're not going to be happy with them. Although that's not to say I did not like the movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie.
Well, just to bring our listeners up to speed, Danny is a James Wan super fan. Is that accurate?
Oh, totally. I love haunted house stuff. I mean, I feel like it goes without saying that anyone who saw in theaters was just like, what? Like, I remember my friend and I went and saw it opening night. That must have been freshman year in high school. And we were just like blown away. Like he had set a precedent, not unlike like M. Night Shyamalan, where you go into it sort of expecting a twist, but James Wan has the benefit of being like, you're coming for a twist, but also there's a lot of like gore and like atmosphere and these like crazy effects. So if there isn't although I would say, okay, Saw, Dead Silence,
Dead Silence. I forgot about that
Insidious. Those all have pretty strong twists. So maybe I'm. Yeah.
Oh, I totally forgot he did Insidious.
Yeah, Insidious and I guess Conjuring isn't really. Yeah, that's where he kind of went a different route. But then with this one, it's like, oh, it's all about that reveal at the end. Like once you, I don't want to say at the end really. It's just once you figure out what's happening. So my only issue, and this has nothing to do with the movie. This is not like a blight on the story whatsoever or anything. But Cody and I were watching it last night, and we figured out the twist really early on.
Oh no.
We didn't know. Like there's no way to be sure. It was just like we were kind of like talking about it, and we did sort of like actively want to figure it out, which maybe we shouldn't have done and just like enjoy the movie. But I can't help it. Like whenever I watch a movie, I'm like, okay, that clearly has to do with something. And like, and I put together these like little elements and we just thought about it. We were like, oh, that must be it. That's it. They're like, they would have never said that and that if it didn't add up to that. This spoiler free approach is hard. Like this is that this is that.
Well, just let's put a little disclaimer here for anyone who's still listening who hasn't seen the movie. We will get into heavy spoilers, momentarily,
because it's so hard to keep it in.
Yes,
but yeah, so that is not, again, like that is not the movie's fault. I just had all of these expectations now because I tried to go in as blind as possible. But once that was there, I just saw it through that lens, so that when it was revealed, it was still a great reveal. It was so insane and so much fun. And the way the execution was really cool. But I was like, oh, there must be something else. Because I was like, maybe maybe it was too obvious. You know what I mean? Like then it just became a whole, But I liked it. It was a lot of fun. Hold on, my computer's being funny. But yeah, that's my spoiler-free thoughts on it.
So I was, like I said, I was floored when it happened. I had no idea that was coming, and it was like my jaw was on the floor, but like the top of my face was like smiling because I was like so shocked, but I was also just like mesmerized at what was happening. And when watching it the second time with Nina, it was it wasn't clear, but I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. They give you everything, but it's in a way that's like, if you're not like doing the math as you're watching it, which I think
Right,
that was
right.
my problem, was I was like trying way too hard.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Um,
but that was a lot of fun.
I guess, yeah.
That moment, that moment at the end when you, or toward the end when you get big that big moment, that big reveal.
Yeah.
The way they play it out was really effective because they use all the stuff, all the ingredients that they've been giving you, and then it's like, now let's like mash them up together. And I
Uh-huh.
love the intercutting of like, you're watching all the characters sort of figure out what's happening at around the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Um, what is her name? Rebecca McKendry? Do you know her from Shockwaves?
no, who's that?
She's a filmmaker and a professor at UCLA,
Okay,
maybe. Um, Let me find her. She had a tweet today.
let's hear that tweet.
Um, let's hear this tweet. There it is. Rebecca McKendry, PhD. She's a
That
PhD.
sounds familiar. Do I follow
She's
her?
got a she she you might. She's got a few movies on Shudder. Um, but she tweeted this yesterday, and she said, the scene where one sister is in jail getting beat up by every character from a 1970s exploitation film, while the other drives to the closed down mental hospital on a choice piece of seaside real estate to pick up a box of exposition and deliver it in a driving sequence. And then she put like black hearts and like, yes. But that's
That's
it.
so
I
fun.
mean,
Yeah,
it's so good.
that's such a
Um,
great way to describe it. That's so perfect because it also plays
right.
into, and that was another thing going into it. Like some of the tonal stuff wasn't my personal cup of tea. It just like if I, again, my thoughts are still kind of stewing on the movie. If I had to pick, I would say I'd like a more traditional ghost story like The Conjuring or Insidious or something. So that's like just where my preferences just tend to lean. So that, again, nothing to do
Yeah.
with the movie, but yeah,
Well, it started out that way.
yeah, and that's the thing. But then when I read later that James wanted what his influences were for this, and like his whole agenda, not agenda, but like just his goal basically with this movie,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I totally get that. Like you're naming off these, references of like different time periods of different movies and filmmakers, and it's like, oh, he
Mm-hmm.
had a goal, and I think he was very successful with that. Again, I
Right.
need to stop doing this. Everyone who was involved with the story, there was Akila Cooper, is it Ingrid Bissu, James Wan, that old trio. Um, all the
Mm-hmm.
credit goes to them. They did a really good job. It was a success, in
Yeah.
my humble opinion.
What were some of the influences that he
What
mentioned?
well, what you had
Do you
said,
know?
like the Giallo and stuff, like Argento and Mario
Okay.
Bava and all that. I can't.
Fulci.
Yeah, exactly. Like just their movies. Um,
Yeah.
but then
Okay.
now I'm kind of getting it mixed up though, because I'm hearing a lot of people sort of mention the influences they saw in the movie. So I don't know if
Okay.
necessarily all of that was what he like when it consciously went into the making the movie, like if that applied basically,
Mm-hmm.
or if that's just their opinion. Um, but
Well, I
either
mean,
way,
you
you can
see
see
some of
all of
the
it.
right from like the Italian horror, the crazy
Mm-hmm.
lens, the crazy shots, like going in the dryer,
Yes,
the
and
clothes
even the
dryer,
use of
and the
color and
peep.
everything, and
And the peephole
yep,
when she looks out the thing, and then you kind of go into
yep,
it real quick.
a lot of like
Um,
fisheye lenses and stuff. He's just like
yep.
basically just playing with the camera, and you can feel
Yeah.
it throughout the whole movie, and the music, and too. You
And,
think you're going down this
right.
traditional route with like this like very traditional modern horror score, and then all of a
Uh
sudden,
huh.
I even mentioned, I was like, I almost feel like I'm watching like a music video at some parts. Like it's just sort of just
Yeah, it was
shakes it up
weird because,
completely.
well, yeah, when she drops that one bit of information to her sister, and her sister's eyes get real big, and then like that
The guitar
techno
like comes
version of
in,
like a,
like
well, it's like a Pixies song.
yeah,
Um, they like do like a rendition of it, and it's weird, and then you get cut to like a like
it's like
a,
that. Dare,
uh
dare, dare, dare,
overhead
dare,
shot
dare, dare.
of like an overhead city
Yep.
shot.
I know exactly the moment you're
And it's just
talking
like,
about.
what happened? Like
Yeah.
where did this movie, like, what are we
There's no
doing?
blending. It's just like, oh, we're gonna go into this now.
Right.
But then as jarring as it is, then it works for the scene that it goes into.
Yeah.
So it's almost like
Oh
it
yeah.
goes to show that he's like deliberately just sort of layering all these influences on top of one another without worrying about
Yeah.
mixing it up. He's like, no, I'm just gonna whatever I want, whatever works for this scene is the direction we're gonna go, which made that a lot of
Yeah.
fun and weird.
And like in a lot of the giallos, you'd get like the murder weapon is like its
Yeah.
own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a cool
Yeah,
bit
and even
in
like the
this where it was
costume
like
of the killer, like going out of their
the
way.
black
Yeah, the
gloves and
gloves and the long trench coat, and
mm-hmm.
but then you also get a lot of just Juan, like all of his stuff, like he just amping everything up to 11. If you watch one of his haunted house movies, he's like, this is a haunted house, like there's some fog and this, it's very like gothic or Victorian,
yeah.
and this one he's like more more. It's like
Yeah.
Kyler's like more. He's just screaming at his team. That's all
well, yeah, they
yeah,
go down in that thing and there's all that
yeah,
fog,
like
and I was like,
why I
oh,
thought
this is like, oh no, this is like Insidious
yeah,
or something like this. Like this
which
is very
in
James
those
Wan.
scenes though, like when it does get amped up in those movies, there's something to motivate it, something in the atmosphere. In that case, like they're in the
Yeah.
like the further, so it's like, okay, of course it's like things are a little like unrealistic and heightened. But then in this one, it's I thought that when they went into the underground area, that I was like, okay, well, there's a reason the fog is so intense, because we're gonna find something out, like this actually isn't really Earth or something, like our plane of existence. Like there's no way that's just
Yeah.
sitting there. And nope, just is.
You've never gone down like 2 stories under the ground and
Well, I
played in the
usually
fog?
do, and it's just there's not as much fog. I live about like 60 feet under the earth, like in
Gotcha.
a hut underneath a tunnel. Um, but just for the
You have a
just for
defogger
that, I
down
just
there?
wanted that natural insulation. Stay
Right,
warm in the
right.
winter, cool in the summer. Um,
Uh, so should we get into
yeah.
spoilers? There is a fucking living tumor on her back, in her head, with hands and arms and teeth and a voice
And a
and
name.
eyes. Oh my God. And a name of Gabriel
Mm-hmm.
living on the back of her head. Oh man.
He's basically like
So,
Professor
okay.
Quirrell from Harry Potter, but like rated R.
Yes.
Without,
Right.
although
Right.
I was going to say without magic, but that's not true. And I want to come back to that later, but we can focus on his reveal first.
Okay. Yeah. So you see him at the beginning, but you don't know that he's attached to somebody else.
And it is so like hard to make him out, like the details. You get a few glimpses like that are distorted.
Face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it's not until later, the whole movie, they set it up. It's somebody else. It's somebody else. But she's giving all these clues, being like, it's all in my head. It's all in my head. It's all in my head.
She even says at one point, she's like, I feel like there was a door opened in the back of my head. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And that was when Cody and I were watching, and we had our little theory, and we are like, okay. We're like, that's it.
Well, when I was watching it for the second time with Nina, I kept saying like, oh my God, like they're giving it away. Yeah. Why are they saying these things? But she didn't pick up on it, just like I didn't pick up the first time.
And then even like in the right before the credit sequence in the beginning, the doctor even says, like, she's like, let's cut this cancer out. So it's like they're straight up telling you like it's about a cancer or something that's attached to someone, and it's clearly like it's like you said, it's all there.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the smartest medical person, but
Zach, you went to medical school for like years. You have a PhD.
Oh, you're thinking of my sister.
Oh, that's right. Zach number 2.
So Malignant is of a disease very virulent or infectious.
So I
thought malignant meant that's
benign,
not malignant. Benign.
That's why I always had a feeling, and I'm sure most people did, like if you're thinking of the title, like I thought it was going to be a possession movie, and that they were going to do some like clever
Okay.
spin on like they treating the possession as a cancer, as like a sickness where it's like just like festering. And so that's where I was
Mhm.
leaning initially. And then
Okay.
obviously it doesn't go that route at all.
Yeah.
Um,
So we get this awesome reveal of this creature on the back of her
mhm.
head, and then it just goes off. Well, because that's in a flashback. That's in
Yeah.
the old recording that we finally
Yeah.
see it. And now when she's alive, oh man, I don't know what's better. The Well, it's probably the reveal on the VHS tape, but when you actually see it in the
And it
prison
opens,
cell
it's
where
because her skull like
she pulls
opens
open the
up
back of her
like a door.
skull.
Like she said, like there's like a door was open. Like it literally
Yeah.
opens up and the head comes out, which is
Oh
so much fun.
man.
Because then it's just like, oh, it's a creature feature, but not because it's
Yep.
also technically a human. It's like
Yeah. And
because
it's
yeah. So the idea is I forget the term, but I had heard of this before. It's kind of like that Stephen King story, The Dark Half, where like you have
mhm.
twins and then
Yeah.
one consumes the other one. And in this case, uh the main character doesn't quite consume the twin all the way, and it becomes a sort of like growth on her in the back of her head.
Well, right. Yeah, it was getting so they like
But it's
it was
feeding
like
off
getting
of
too,
her,
yeah, feeding off of her unborn
which is
children.
so disturbing.
Yeah.
I, w- I
And
it's funny
like
they do mention that specifically at the end, and I almost wish they didn't because I feel like that's something that I would have loved to have been like when I thought about the movie, like oh shit, like that's like just to kind of make it, I don't know, marinate a little as it's marinating, sort of like find all these like other details, but that's just a personal, I guess, thing.
what do they mention?
Like literally at the end, the sister is like, she was
Oh, when the
feeding off
sister
of
says it.
your, unborn child, and yet, and I was like, felt a
Yeah.
little like
Yeah.
heavy exposition, but I mean, it happens. It's fine. Didn't hurt
Right.
the movie for me.
Yeah. She was like trying to give her sister like all the anger that
That's
she needed
fair.
to like move.
That's a good point.
But I get it. I want to know, did the cop die?
I don't think so. They don't really.
Because they never say.
I mean, they straight up like set up a sequel. So you have your
Oh
main
yeah.
character, even the mom is alive. Like Gabriel's mom is alive at the end.
Hmm.
So like there's
Which I would love. Oh,
no, I
go
just
ahead.
like there's something there.
I would love if. Well, there's got to be a
Hmm.
sequel. Yeah. I would love if her character. She even says it when he says, "I'll get out someday," and she said, "Yeah, I know, but next time I'll be ready."
Hmm.
Um, I would love it if she goes full on villain
Oh yeah. Well, it could be like a
and just
Dr.
like,
Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, where like this movie was all about the twist and like subverting your expectations of like a ghost kind of thriller, where the second one could straight up just be like, we know the story, we know the setup, so now it's like how do you heighten that even more. And it could be like,
yeah,
almost because this movie is kind of funny in parts, like they lean into the comedy, like
uh-huh,
the dark comedy, so you could totally get away with that, where it's just like madhouse just like watching these two
right.
characters like consciously just like going at it, but like it's like Voldemort and
It would
Professor
be like,
Quirrell.
well, what's that movie? Is it called Brain Damage?
I haven't seen
With
that.
the guy, the little guy that comes out of his
Oh,
fucking head.
Oh, there was Basket Case, but that's not. Is it
Basket
Basket
Case. That's
Case?
different.
Okay.
I'm thinking of Yeah, I'm thinking of Brain
Okay.
Damage. So the IMDb synopsis here says, one morning, a young man wakes up to find that a small, disgusting creature has attached itself to the base of his brainstem. The creature gives him a euphoric state of happiness,
Oh.
but demands human victims in return.
Oh, that's fun.
But it is like, it is goofy.
You know what I was thinking, not to get off topic, but I thought as I was watching the movie, like they were going to do this like last second like twist. Now, mind you, this is not a good idea. It's just, it popped in my head. I was like, oh, that'd be fun. If like they're in the hospital and she like controls Gabriel and everything. And I don't know, she says something about how like, okay, we win, we defeated the monster. And then the mom is in the hospital bed and she's like, oh no, I didn't have twins. I had triplets. And like a bait, like another head comes out of her stomach or something.
Oh, that would be cool. Out of the girl's stomach?
Yeah, something or like something
The like
stupid. Or like her, or she like opens her mouth and there's like a face inside of her throat or something.
Like an
Yeah,
eyeball
she's like
back there.
coughing. She's like, "What's that?" It's like, that's your other brother. That's the title. Malignant 2, The Other Brother.
You need to get on it. You need to write this and send it to James
Okay,
Wan
I'm
before he
starting
makes a move
now.
on the
Okay, I'm
sequel.
done. Just sent it. Oh, he said he loves it. That was quick.
Oh, good. So yeah, that I mean, I think that's all I have for Malignant.
I think it was a fun movie. I think we both had similar opinions for the most part. I think you
I think
appreciated a lot of it more just based on
yeah,
your like just personal interests.
yeah, absolutely. And the fact that I didn't see it coming.
Yeah. I kind of
I
blew it
think
for
I
me. I
got a
should have
little
just
bit
went
more.
in like just stop trying. Just watch the fucking movie.
Yeah. Well, there is a question. Me and Nina had a question last night. So at the beginning,
Mhm.
she's running from this like shadow creature,
Oh
which
yeah, that's
is
what I
really
wanted
just
to
in
ask.
her head,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But how does but like the bathroom door flies off the hinges and she gets knocked
So I
out.
think that
Like,
was in
how
her
is that a
mental
thing?
prison. I think we're just seeing like the visualization, and because she is like
Okay.
thinking that's what's happening, but that's not necessarily the
Okay.
case.
So she basically just like passed out
Yeah, it's almost like
on the
what do you
floor.
call it when you're in bed and like you have night terrors, like sleep paralysis. It's almost like
Oh,
that. I think
okay.
like it's that idea, except I don't necessarily think she has to be asleep for it to happen. Whenever Gabriel takes over,
Okay. So did she go upstairs? Did she pass out in the
I
bathroom?
don't know.
Or was all that
It could
just
she could
yeah,
have. I
see.
don't know. 'Cause there were a few
Hmm.
things that I had questions about. One of them was the whole thing with electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Why was he in the
why was he
electricity?
in the electricity? Why does he apparently eat the electricity? And then I was like, okay, well, maybe that is just, I don't know. Like, is that just what she's hearing? Like, she thinks? But that wouldn't make sense because
Well,
he's like
no.
literally calling people with like an unknown number
Right.
somehow.
And the people at the beginning, the doctors and everything at the beginning, they're like, "Oh my god, he can talk."
Yeah. So is
And
that just
so that's
supposed to
when
be
they
like
decided to
kind of like breadcrumbs for a sequel to be like, we'll explore that later? Or
I
were
don't
we
know. It's
supposed to
almost like,
know?
well, maybe because like I guess they just needed him away. They needed to give him a way to talk
Yeah, I don't get that.
because if he was like in her brain,
Because they really go
I don't
all in on like,
understand either.
and I think that's one thing that bothered me just a little bit. I feel like it was such a clever like concept for a horror movie, and it did feel a
Hmm.
little like they put a little too much padding on that with that. Like they could have just like simplified it a little bit. Like just give me that, unless I'm totally missing
Yeah.
something, and it actually the electricity thing makes sense. But that was one big thing that
Um.
took me out.
No. Yeah. I mean, they shocked him at the
Yeah,
beginning, and then all the stuff started going nuts. Um. Maybe that had something to do with it, just like the initial
yeah. Because like
shock. I don't
literally the
know.
last shot of the movie is like you see the light bulb like flicker, like implying that it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, is it supposed to be literal?
That
Am I
like he
like
lives in the
overthinking it?
electricity. It's like
Shocker.
Shocker,
Yeah, that's what I was
where the
thinking.
guy goes into the electrical wiring and all that.
Gabriel says at the end, he's like,
Um,
"No more Mister Nice Guy." I'm like, ah, all
you
right,
just like hear
that's
it
not
on
an
the
influence.
credits.
You stole that. You can't just take a line.
Do you know like Poltergeist 3 when it ends
I
and
don't.
there's like they zoom out of
I don't think I've seen
the
Poltergeist.
skyscraper?
Oh, that's the one of the. Oh, I have seen that, but I haven't seen it in a while.
What?
Part
Okay.
2 and
Well, at
3,
the
I
end
hadn't
they like
seen. I've only really rewatched part 1.
yeah. Um Part 2 has some cool
Well,
bits.
that's funny. That's why I
Um
never rewatched part 2 because I remember that one scaring me more. Because I would watch them
there's
when I
some
was little,
really
and then part 1 never really scared me. I just loved it. I thought it was fun. But
mhm.
yeah, part 2, the old man, and then I remember something about like a worm, like with like tequila or something.
Well, yeah. What's his name? Coach.
Yeah.
What's Coach's name? Uh
Oh yeah.
oh my god. He's in the Incredibles. What the
Oh
hell's his
my
name?
god. I always just think it's so funny. I just think of the Family Stone. I love him in that. Oh my
Oh,
god, it's right there.
what the? That's it's pissing me off. What's his name?
It is.
Are you looking it up?
Yeah. I also always thought that he and Harrison Ford should have played brothers in a movie.
Oh, there you go.
They have the same voice.
Um,
Um oh my good.
Craig T.
Thank
Nelson.
you. Holy shnikes.
Craig T. Nelson. Yeah, in part 2, he drinks the tequila, and the worm is like you see that it's like a little demon or
Ugh.
something, and so he swallows it, and then he like goes nuts, and he like pukes up like this like big
Oh, I remember this. It was like
goopy
larva or
scary
something.
thing. Yeah, like larva. It's like a big maggot,
Oh yeah.
and
I'm
then
having like
he like
deep
has a
flashbacks.
it like has a face. Um, but if you're scared of the old man, you need to watch part 3.
Okay. So
Oh my god,
Jimmy and I,
terrifying.
for anyone who's listening and hasn't heard me talk about this quite a bit in other episodes, my friend Jimmy and I are watching like virtually. We're watching horror movie franchises, and we're finishing up The Predator tonight. But we have like a whole like very complicated system for how we pick our next movie. But we both come in
Uh-huh.
with 4 options, and a lot of them are what you would call it, like supernatural. And I have
Okay.
Poltergeist.
What are your other 3?
I have Paranormal Activity because I've never seen all of them, and I've always needed an excuse
Okay.
to. The Ring, which I've seen them all, but I love them. Insidious,
Would you watch the
and Poltergeist.
Japanese
Yeah,
rings
so
too?
that's one thing we haven't really discussed. Whenever we go into these marathons, we just sort of watch. I don't even know if we've watched any remakes yet. I don't
Okay.
think. So I'm going to ask Jimmy what he wants to do, because we do like, it does get a little exhausting when you're like meeting to watch movies like on your computer virtually. And then you look at
Yeah.
Hellraiser and there's 10 entries and we have it like on the back burner. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, like I want to watch this franchise so bad, but 10. So it's like, do we
Uh-huh.
trim the fat a little bit and like cut out some movies just so we're not watching so many? So we're gonna play it by ear, but I would love to watch at least the original Japanese Ring.
Yeah.
And maybe not the sequels, but then it's like I can't justify why I wouldn't do that. So we'll see.
Well, real quick, jumping back to Predator, did you guys watch Predators yet?
We just watched it the other night
With Adrian
Yeah,
Brody and Lawrence Fishburne? I love
that
that
is
one.
such a good movie. I had never seen it, and I didn't see it because people told me when it came out that it wasn't great, and I'm like, I need to stop listening to people, basically,
Mm-hmm.
because I love that movie. Actually, we were a little like not as gung ho about starting the Predator franchise, but it's been
Okay.
so much fun, and I forgot how fun that franchise
Yeah.
is. Like even when it's not scary, this at least in the latest when we saw Predators, like the suspense was top notch. It was so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a wild little movie, like such good characters, really great kills. Um, the ending was a little like it felt too sequel setupy, where it didn't really feel
Okay.
that satisfying, but that's like not a big deal.
Yeah. Have you seen The Predator?
I've only seen the first half of it, so I'm very excited tonight to watch all of it. I only like there was a reason I was watching it on TV and then had to go somewhere and then it like wasn't available wherever it was
Okay.
streaming. But yeah, I'm really excited. I love that Shane Black did it, and I'm really excited watching it like in chronological order to see like
Mm-hmm.
where it goes because I kind of forget the movie too a little bit, like in comparison to like the all the movies that came before it. But
Right.
we'll
Right.
see.
Okay, so anything else you want to talk about Malignant?
Let's see. Any thoughts? I will add, I know a lot of people have mentioned that they love the movie because it is very campy, which is like another word that's been
Okay.
thrown around. And
I didn't get that
I
vibe.
don't get it as much. I can see some things like how over the top it gets and it can seem a little tongue in cheeky. And I do like camp to a degree, but I guess I wasn't expecting it with this one. So I think I'll have to go back and rewatch
Mhm.
Malignant down the road once I've kind of like digested it a little bit. Not unlike Her Head with
Okay.
Gabriel, just digesting it. Um,
Oh, I love like they're like, we're gonna cut out what we can, and the rest we're just gonna
I
stuff into her
know.
skull.
I wonder if there's a
What?
bigger thing there. There's like they're trying to say something with that. Where like you're just like hiding the monster by literally forcing it into someone's
Right.
head. Um,
But yeah, I didn't get the like a campy
yeah,
factor or campy vibe from it. I was just kind of like, oh, this is fucking
yeah.
awesome.
Maybe it depends on the definition of like camp, because like when I think of camp, I think of like Death Becomes Her, which
Yeah.
I am in a minority of people who's not as big of a fan of that. I know a lot of like gay culture for some reason, like a lot of horror fans gravitate toward that movie. But
Okay.
I don't know.
I think I've I think I've started it twice and I've never
It's
finished it.
not my favorite.
So
I guess I get it. It's fun, like it's a fun little like, I'm sure it has some deep message, some allegory. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen all of it, but
yeah.
I don't know. It just wasn't. I mean, it's Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep, It's like it's all there, and I think Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah.
But there is something. It is
Okay.
so almost too much. But so I could see kind of where they're going with that, with like the grotesque, but the grotesque is sort of like humorous, but it's also really
Hmm.
disturbing.
Well, I didn't find the violence and the grotesqueness in this one to be
Oh,
humorous.
really?
I thought it was just brutal.
I 100% agree with that. I do think there was some. I guess maybe it was like just the over the top uh aspects, like even the way Gabriel moves and fights, and like, oh, like for some reason Gabriel can like
Well,
spin around walls and like is like part of the Matrix, but
yeah.
it's like
Well,
you just have to
it's
accept
like
it.
he's like he can walk backward. He's like Tom Green and Freddy Got Fingered. He's the backwards man.
All these
He can walk
influences
fast.
that James Wan, they're all coming coming forward.
But it's cool, like when you see him walk down the hallway, because he's like,
Yeah, that I
your mind
loved.
like plays a trick on you, because you're like, is he? At one point, you think he's walking forward, and the next thing you know, he's walking backwards. It's like one of those optical
Yeah,
illusions from that famous guy, where like the steps you can follow them one way, and then you keep looking, and it looks like they're going the
yeah.
other way. That
That's
was
the
him.
actually the part
Um,
that kind of that confirmed it for us when we were watching. They're like, oh, that's what it is. So we're like, they talked about how the facility, the hospital, Simeon or whatever, the research facility,
yeah.
it has something about reconstructive surgery for kids. So I was like, okay, reconstructive surgery. They're clearly
Hmm.
removing something. And then they showed like kids with like certain growths on their bodies,
Yeah.
and then she hits her head, and then right when she hits her head, that's when like crazy shit starts happening, and it keeps bleeding. And then when they show her like walking backwards, I was like, okay. I was like, that has to
Yeah.
be it. But the only thing that threw me off again, and now that I think about it, is like the whole, like even when her husband in the beginning, when he goes downstairs and the TV's on and you see the silhouette of Gabriel sitting there, and then he turns the lights on and Gabriel's gone. That I don't
Hmm.
get. Like there's something with electricity and lighting and shadows that makes it supernatural, but the story
Yeah.
isn't really
Because then you see
supernatural.
like, well, then you see like the couch cushion like raise up,
Yeah.
like somebody was sitting on it.
So did I miss
And
something? Do
so,
they say that
well,
Gabriel actually does like sort of
I don't think so.
like travel
I
outside
don't
of the
think they
body?
explain it at all, really. But the second time around, my reasoning or the way I made it try to make sense was that when he's so fast,
Yeah.
because you see him like scatter
Yeah.
around, is that just like he was there and then like the lights went off, or he turned the TV off and then like scattered away and then they turned the lights on again.
He's so fast. He's just like,
But like I
no,
don't
it's no,
know,
I'm
like
not
I
laughing
mean
at that.
that's
It's just funny because the character's just so fast. It's like so
yeah,
insane. Um,
right.
yeah, I could see that being the case.
So I don't know.
Because
I
it
mean,
could explain like how the movie is sort of making you think it's supernatural, but actually Like the more you think about it, like there's a logical explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like even when I don't know. Because I keep like thinking of like the scene when she's in the interrogation room and she screams and the lights go out. It's like maybe they didn't see that. Only she saw that. It's like kind of like her emotions are manifested as like, but that doesn't make sense. I don't know what that would mean. And then for the opening scene,
Well,
like you
yeah.
said, for them to straight up just say like
Yeah.
he's eating light.
Yeah, I don't know. Because like the police officers like in the interrogation scene, like they respond to everything that's happening. So is that, like you said, is that in her head and they're just like sitting there? I don't know.
We need a sequel now. And hopefully it's like
Well,
about
the other thing, yeah. And going back to that whole is it in her head thing, she like is in the jail cell, she does all that stuff. Gabriel's out there killing people. And then it cuts back to her in the jail cell, surrounded by the same women. But then once the camera like turns, it's just a bunch of dead police officers everywhere.
Because I think that's her just
like,
yeah, I think that's just supposed to throw you off because it's just like her little mental prison and she's starting to, it's like visualizing like her realizing what's happening or at least kind of realizing something's wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'm not sure what motivates that. Is it like Gabriel gets like hurt and like isn't able to like consciously like trap her? I don't know. I have to go back. I have a lot of questions about this movie, and like you said, we are like coming into this chat like very fresh off the movie. So I'm gonna need to like give this another look at some point. But if you do want to bring it back to the whole like, I know this is like a little bonus episode we're doing, but the whole concept of your show is like meeting the monster, and I would argue that this is one of the most unique meetings of the monsters in a horror movie that we've covered so far, if not the most.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because it's like the whole movie is like a reveal.
Yeah, and we're just getting like we're being bits. Yeah, we're being fed like little pieces.
You get little bits and little pieces. Oh man, good call. Good call. Okay, well, I think that's it. If you haven't seen the movie and you're still listening, I'm sorry.
It's ruined. You should still watch it. But if this didn't sell you on
Malignant, Malignant is now streaming on HBO Max and in theaters. It's weird that I put HBO Max before theaters.
This pandemic has really messed with our perception of the norm.
You've changed, man. You've changed. So yeah, check out Malignant if you have HBO Max. If you don't have HBO Max,
you can use our accounts. We'll share our passwords and login information.
Well, I was going to say you could do the classic route and support the theater system, but if you want to share HBO Max
with everyone.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Now go meet some monsters.
Peace.